Coming up in this episode of TekThing, we get hands-on with AmpliFi's mesh router, how to become a pen tester, now in stock solar chargers, and more. It's all coming up on TekThing. If you get something useful out of this episode of TekThing, please consider contributing to the show at patreon.com/TekThing. We're brought to you by viewers just like you. Thank you so much.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we have something useful in every single show.
As a matter of fact, speaking of which, have you seen nowinstock.net?
No.
Okay, Ryan Shrout was talking about this on Twitch, and a bunch of people are like, oh my God, this is amazing. If you've never seen this website, this is nowinstock.net.
Okay.
You being the avid coupon price tracker
I am a
maniac
coupon
that
queen.
you are, the power of knowing when and where online. So let's say, for example, you were looking for an NVIDIA GTX 1070 GPU.
Okay.
And look at that. Oh.
Ooh.
This is showing Amazon B&H Photo and basically
the
dates and the prices and the availability. So you can look at it and be like, oh, wow, I can get it for that much more than the MSRP right now. So the prices haven't dropped. Although it was interesting, like if I go on the RX 480 tracker, there's a bunch of pre-orders where it's actually down around the price you want. You can do alerts, you can set up a bunch of interesting stuff inside of there. They do Star Wars toys. I believe you were looking for the NES Classic Edition, which is officially out of stock everywhere except for on eBay, and I'm not even gonna look at those prices.
Wow.
They do Lego trackers, so if you're looking for particular Lego sets, let's see, Kingdoms, and wow.
Cool.
Yet another Lego set that's completely sold out, but we're a tech show. They do a ton of stuff where you can track down computer parts, memory. Cool website if you haven't seen it. Check it out now in stock.
Thank you for that tip.
.net.
Very interesting website. So what do you have for us now sitting up here?
Okay.
He's pretty little baby.
Big buzzword in networking or Wi-Fi or routers for the last few months has been mesh networking. And the idea is that with mesh networking, you scatter a bunch of routers around the house. Rather than have the big, giant Game of Thrones crown router.
Like which I currently have in my household.
Right. But here's the thing, right? You have a relatively,
I have a small place. So for me, just having one wireless router is great. But if I have let's say a warehouse like we have here, it might be interesting to look into mesh networks. Yeah, covering a 5,000 square foot house, or maybe you're in a townhome where there's multiple levels. The idea with mesh networking is, and by the way, the first idea is that everything should be simple. Yes.
So if you want all of the geek controls, he may drive you insane. But the idea with these is you bathe the house in Wi-Fi and you forget about it. So in the case of these AmpliFi devices, they have mesh routers which plug into a wall socket.
Okay.
So if mesh routing sounds familiar, you've probably heard the names Eero and Luma. Those are the two big names that came out. Eero gives you a 3-pack of their little lozenges for $499. Luma is $399 for a 3-pack. The AmpliFi, which is from Ubiquiti Labs, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because you've heard of Ubiquiti, the wireless networking giant. They do a lot of corporate stuff and a lot of good long distance stuff. The standard version starts at $199. Which is a bargain.
Yeah, that's way cheaper.
Yes, or Wi-Fi system, as they call it. So for $199, you get a router and 2 of these mesh network points that plug into your wall socket.
Okay.
So instead of getting like 3 discrete boxes, you get 1 discrete box with a touch screen and this. Now, Ubiquiti, by the way, I love the fact that they're magnetic.
Oh, that's cool.
So if the kid runs by or the dog runs by and rips it out of the wall, it doesn't rip your sockets apart. It's magnetic. Ubiquiti says it'll cover 10,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet for the long range and high density models. There's 3 models. I'm gonna say those numbers are for rooms without walls, though even here in the worst area of the warehouse, Darren's office, Hack5 Darren's office, which has multiple layers of sheetrock between, or had in the way I set this up, between the mesh devices and where I was sitting, I got the same 150 megabits per second downloads as I got sitting like 6 inches away from the router.
Wow, that's very, very good.
I had no trouble bathing all 5,000 square feet of the Hack5 warehouse in Wi-Fi. Got 130 megabits per second, even in the worst areas, like outside on the loading dock, 150 megabits per second in the best. This wasn't overall throughput speed based on like a network test. I was doing download speeds.
Okay.
75 feet out in front of the warehouse, I was still picking up 20 megabits per second up and down.
Wow.
Now in my house, which is all thick horsehair plaster walls, I was down to 15 megabits per second in the backyard, but let me speak freely. I have never gotten Wi-Fi there before without like putting
Really?
the router in the back window of the house.
Wow, that's impressive.
There's a lot of
because you
plaster.
kind of live in a Faraday cage.
I live in a Faraday cage. There is so much plaster in my house. Setup is done by an application on your phone, the AmpliFi app on your phone. Took about 2 minutes, not counting running around the house to plug in the mesh points. They basically like put the mesh points around your house. And you plug them in, and then they auto,
So it's very convenient for consumers.
Yeah, it's the whole, like I said earlier, right? The whole point of this is simple, right?
Yeah.
There's 4 Ethernet jacks on the back of this. You turn it on, you plug in your connection to your cable modem or whatever kind of router you have, micro USB for the power. The touchscreens basically tells you to launch the app. You launch the app.
Okay.
You give the password if you need it. You set up a password for it. They give you some basic information, the IP address, speed of current usage, how much traffic's going on there.
Okay.
It's super simple. Ubiquiti did send us the HD version to test, the high density version. All 3 AmpliFi kits look exactly the same. You get 2 mesh points and a router box. Whether it's the long range, high density, or standard version of the AmpliFi, again, touch display on the router. And there's blue LEDs on the mesh points that tell you the signal
right
performance
there.
or the quality. Yeah, our
Okay.
lights are blowing those out. The long range and high density versions include more powerful radios, like 2 dB more powerful, not much. The $349 HD version also has 6 radios and supports up to 18 MIMO chains and a max speed for all devices of like 5.25 gigabits per second.
Wow.
Well, the reason that's that's the big difference with the high density. So if you were doing an office and you had 50 people, you want the high density version.
Yeah.
That's more than twice the total throughput of the standard and the long range version. Like each of the mesh adapters, basically they're doing full MIMO beamforming, and you'll be able to add more of them later on. They're currently basically just selling them in the kits, and then later on they'll be selling these separately. There's no Ethernet on the mesh points like the Eero has, but you know what? You can get a Wi-Fi Ethernet adapter. I liked it.
I think it sounds pretty cool.
I wish they had sent me the $200 version to test.
Yeah.
Because, for my little 1,200 square foot home, I don't need the HD version, or I shouldn't need the HD version. But it is tempting to put the $200 SD version in my house. Again, I had the more powerful HD version for testing, which did a fantastic job. The warehouse is a mess.
Yes.
There are giant steel shelves.
When it comes to networking, like it's a mess in here.
Well, it was, I mean, our current router, which is poorly located because there's nowhere else we can physically locate it.
Yeah.
In the far corners gives me 20 megabits
Right.
down. Max, and at the same location,
Pretty terrible.
With the AmpliFi system, I was getting 150 megabits. So
That's cool.
that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
AmpliFi says the standalone mesh points will be available, will be compatible with any third-party router, which I was kind of
Wow.
interested.
Okay.
Not a lot of advanced management right now, but I have a pre-release version of the software. AmpliFi said the version set for release is going to include parental controls, so you can control network access by device, and a quote, more robust offering will be available through a firmware update down the road, which is pretty typical. Most of these mesh devices, they're like, plug them in, forget about Wi-Fi forever, we've got it. But they're not doing a lot of super deep, like, I want to be able to turn off Toby's internet at 11 o'clock p.m. on his phone every day. So that's in the future.
Okay.
There's some basic configuration tools and setup that work with the touchscreen on the router, and there's a Wi-Fi configuration, which I did not test because, quite frankly, the phone app worked, and I was just so excited that it worked. It didn't even occur to me to log in over the Wi-Fi. So
but you can do configurations from your desktop as well,
Yes.
correct? Okay, that's good.
By logging into the router. In fact, I can probably do that right now. I'm impressed.
Yeah, it sounds very impressive.
Everything I've heard so far, especially about Eero, has been like, it's fantastic coverage. If you have the 4,000 square foot U-shaped house and you can't get internet over there, mesh networking is awesome. For the majority of people, you don't need a $500 mesh device.
Okay.
For the majority of people, you need to put the router in the center of your house.
And then you're good to go.
You're good to go.
Yeah.
If you can't get the router in the center of your house, or you need coverage downstairs and upstairs, or you have a weird layout, the mesh networking is super awesome. The SD version of this starts at $200, which is $150 cheaper than anything else we've seen.
That's great.
So that's cool. That's
Cool.
seriously tempting. I'm curious to see what other features show up in the app later this year, and I'll be sad to see it go. But you know what? For $200, there are standalone routers that sell for like hundreds.
$200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
easily.
to get this plus the mesh points.
That's pretty cool.
I was impressed with the coverage, especially here in the warehouse, because the warehouse stinks.
Yes, so it gets a thumbs up from Mr. Patrick Norton.
I'm excited. Ubiquiti's a name. Ubiquiti knows Wi-Fi. They're solid. Like, what could they improve? Okay, Ethernet on the mesh points.
And that's it.
This is the most enthusiastic I've been about a networking product in a while.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I don't know what to think. I'm a little speechless.
Sun shines even on a dog's posterior once in a while.
Let us know what you think about mesh networking. If you want to see any of the other ones reviewed on the show, you can email us. Always ask@tekthing.com. We got a question from Nick, who wrote in to ask@tekthing.com. Hi, Patrick and Snubs. I'm thinking about a career change. The career of pen tester, security expert sounds like it's a growing field. How should I go about getting the training and experience to do pen testing professionally? From Nick. Nick, I love your question, and it just so happens I know a few penetration testers myself. So our friend Mubix, who is also the host of Metasploit Minute over on the Hack5 channel, had a few thoughts for you from his own career as a penetration tester. So Mubix, first off, sent us an article from correlon.be. It's called How to Become a Penetration Tester. I'm going to put that link in the show notes so you can read through the entire thing. But I figured it would be really cool to actually get a pen tester on the show as well. So, Mubix, hi, how are you? How long have you been a penetration tester, sir?
So officially a pen tester since about 2008, 2009. So not that long actually, but
okay.
Or actually it's getting that long. It's almost 10 years. Oh my gosh, getting old.
I think we all are. So what would you suggest for getting started in pen testing? Did you take any classes, or were you a very do-it-yourself or learn it yourself?
So it was very do-it-yourselfish. I honestly, I started with you guys back in 2005 at Hack5, learning breaking into stuff and that kind of thing. And the reason I sent you the link to the Corlan the Corlan site is because he does the Corlan, and Peter, the guy who runs the group, does an excellent job of doing way more detail than I could do in a segment like this. I think the biggest piece of becoming a pen tester is mastering some kind of IT trade. Like pen testers need to be good at a lot of things.
Yeah.
They need to be they need to know different networks and how Windows works and how Linux works and how all these things work. But if you're looking at a career in pen testing, go do one of those things first. Go be a forensic analyst. Go be an IT sysadmin, because that knowledge will serve you 10 times better than any certificate or certification that you can get.
Yeah.
Just learning how to build stuff will tell you exactly how to break things.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Being hands-on and getting that hands-on experience and actually trying to break into things yourself really, really does actually help a lot with learning penetration testing. So is penetration testing something that you need to continually work on to learn? Like, is it changing, or is it like riding a bike where if you leave it and go on vacation for a year, you can always just hop back on and be able to get a job in it?
Yeah, no. One of the not even close. One of the great things about pen testing is that it's always changing, always evolving, and always getting harder. So how I personally deal with that is I usually up until around 2 or 3 o'clock. So
in the morning?
In the morning, and then go to bed and wake up around 6 or around 7 to take my kids to school or whatever. But like, it takes a lot of dedication, and with virtual machines these days, and the prevalence of like VirtualBox and stuff like that, it's a lot easier to do that because you can stand up a new VM of Windows, especially now that there's trial versions that you can get without pirating anything like you had to back in the day. It's so much easier to practice, and one of the greatest resources to practice these days is a website called vulnhub.com. There are these built VMs that you have to break into, and they even have walkthroughs for all of this stuff. So even if you get stuck and just want to learn how to get it actually done and do it yourself, you can just take the walkthrough and do it. So like, the resources these days to practice is unbelievable.
Now, one thing I have noticed with penetration testing myself and learning about security is a lot of the tutorials available online aren't that great. Like, they will miss a few of the very pertinent steps that you have to know to fully understand a tutorial. So are you more into asking questions whenever you have a question yourself, or do you promote figuring stuff out on your own?
So the motto of offensive security is try harder. And I have a personal, difference of opinion on that one.
Yeah.
I, as a young kid, I would ask, I'd go up to anybody and ask a question.
Me too.
I never had a qualm with it. It was something that was broken in my head to kind of be in awe of people. So when I first met HD Moore, who is the creator of Metasploit, I just went, hey, how's it going? How do I get this to work? And never had, that issue. We became really good friends after that. But like, I don't think anybody should ever have a problem asking questions as long as they have done a little bit of research to do it. So if you haven't Googled something, if you haven't at least put some effort in, the person you're asking the question to will probably know. They'll know that you haven't done the legwork at least to get to some point. And they'll probably not answer questions for you any longer. Like, that can easily burn a bridge, but ask tons and tons of questions. Look and ask as many as you can. So I'm kind of a half full, half empty on that answer.
What is Stack Overflow?
What is Stack Overflow? Stack Overflow is a website where you can ask any question you want and get answers from a ton of people. It even has an information security one, right?
Yeah, we highly suggest it.
You're making a joke. Sorry.
We highly suggest Stack Overflow. It's a great website. So would you say that a beginner should learn one language over another, or one program over another, or is there a specific segment that they should learn over anything else, or should they just learn about every single language that they can?
So for me personally, what I did was I learned the languages and tools that I needed to solve the problems that I had in front of me. So let's say that you have a Vulnhub VM that you have to use Netcat for, but you might want to, and Netcat's not working for whatever reason. So you go out and search for some tools like on Stack Overflow and find, hey, there's NCAT from Nmap. This one has SSL, it might work better. My big mantra here, and I might seem like a very Ruby kind of guy. I even did a segment that I dissed on Python inside of Metasploit Minute. But really what it boils down to is whatever tool is best for the job. It's very evident when you're talking about construction, and like a hammer is good for hammering things. A nail is good for going in, holding things together. But in the world of InfoSec, it's really more ambiguous. So what you need to do as a pen tester is figure out what does things better and never stick to something. Don't get into holy wars where, Vi is better than Emacs or Nano or whatever.
iPhone is better than Android.
Right. It's really what works better and what works better for you and what works better for what you're trying to do. So just drop, all the individual pride in those things, and you'll do really well.
I totally agree, and I will attest to the fact that I do own an iPad, and I only use it for FaceTiming, but it is the thing that works for my family, so I use it. Is there anything else that you would recommend for a beginner in penetration testing?
So take your time. Don't rush into a new junior level pen testing gig. While you might have the drive and hunger to do so and learn as much as you can, when you're stuck on an engagement and all you've ever done is pen testing, you won't be able to have, you might, but you probably won't have the ingenuity of, hey, I built this one time. Here's how else I could do it. And a lot of the really good firms that really do the fun stuff won't hire anyone who's junior. So take the time, do your dues, and you'll get there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mubix. And last off, of course, where can we check out more of your work?
Room362.com is where my blog's at, always on Twitter. And if you have questions about pen testing or anything like that, I am totally open to questions. Hit me up anytime. Mubix@hack5.org. I am available as much as I can be.
That's awesome. That's exactly why we decided to have you on the show today. And also remember to check out Mubix's work on Metasploit Minute. You can find that over at hack5.org, which is the same channel that you can find most of our work as well. And he also does have that show supported on Patreon, just like we do here on TekThing. So if you are really interested in Metasploit and you want to get your learn on, definitely check out his Patreon over at patreon.com/Mubix. And of course, if you have a question about your own techie career, you can always email us, ask@tekthing.com, and we will try to answer it for you. Thank you, everybody.
If you're a fan of TekThing, make sure you subscribe at tekthing.com, on iTunes, your favorite podcatcher, or if you're living La Vida YouTube, youtube.com/TekThing. That makes sure you get each and every episode, and if you want to take it to the next level, please contribute to the show at patreon.com/TekThing. As little as $1 a month can make it happen, and you'll get access to each and every one of our patron-only builds. If you can't donate, no worries. Please take the time to send us your questions, your tips, and to share the show with your friends and family. And if you got a minute to give our video the thumbs up on YouTube or like our Facebook page, we would really appreciate it because it all helps. Thank you so much for supporting the show.
We got an email to ask@tekthing.com from Sean, who writes, "Dear Shannon and Patrick, I have 150 megabits per second download speed from my ISP and noticed I was only getting about 40 from my desktop.
Ouch.
The number was obtained from doing some online speed tests. My desktop is connected wirelessly to my Asus RT-AC66U router. Hardwired is not an option as the desktop and the router are a floor away from each other. I have a TP-Link N900 wireless adapter which supports speeds up to 450 megabits per second, so I'm not sure why I'm only getting 40 speeds. I had my MS Surface Book sitting next to my desktop and I was able to get about 134 download speed tests, so I think it has to do with my wireless card. I was looking at upgrading my wireless card from the Asus AC1900 PCIe, it's PCE AC68 card, and was wondering what your thoughts are on whether or not you think I would see a speed increase. Appreciate your time and input. Thanks, from Sean." Ooh, that was a lot of numbers.
A lot of megabits per second.
Yes.
My first thought was like, man, it's always dangerous to use speed tests, like networks, internet speed tests to compare.
Yeah.
Because if you fire up a couple Netflix stream or somebody's downloading an update to Doom, that's
something might be throttled.
Exactly.
You never know.
Might, so it's not the most ideal, but when you say like 100, basically like the N900 card and the Surface Book, I was like, oh, okay. I know what this is. I hate 802.11n. Seriously. Worst flavor of Wi-Fi ever.
Isn't it?
Yes.
It doesn't taste good.
It sucks. It tastes like Aardvark Tuchus, which is basically, so your N900 wireless adapter is 802.11n. Connecting end devices to an AC router can help, but not as much as getting AC Wi-Fi in your desktop. You also have sort of another challenge. That N900 adapter plugs into the back of your PC, and you can basically, you have your antennas are behind your PC.
Yes.
And you can only do so much with that. So I like the fact that you're looking at an 802.11 AC PCI Express adapter. And what's really, really cool about this Asus adapter is that the antennas are mounted remotely. So the antennas aren't stuck on the back of the card, on the back of your case. You can move them around, you can rotate them, you can staple them to the wall. Just keep tweaking until you get the best results. I will say also, if you're not in an apartment, just drill a hole through the floor and run an Ethernet cable. I'm kidding. If that AC68 doesn't cut it, consider giving up on Wi-Fi and going with a Powerline adapter. Zyzel's Powerline AB1200 gigabit adapter costs $80 and gives solid results. This is also the kind of situation those mesh router systems like the AmpliFi are supposed to help with.
Yeah.
You would put a mesh receiver on each floor of your house, or like the first floor, the second floor, and over there. And the idea is that they will all work together again to bathe the entire area with Wi-Fi. But yeah, try that AC adapter, and the Zyzel Powerline adapters have really, really good reviews.
Okay.
And they're at 2 for $80, they're pretty inexpensive.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
No.
I too have had issues with N Wi-Fi. It is not the funnest thing in the world, but I was able to fix my problems with moving the antennas in the perfect direction, eventually fix it. So try that too if you need to.
Yeah, if you can relocate your router, it's always a nice idea. It's frustrating. You know, and the other thing is like, yeah, it's 450 megabytes per second mathematically under divine, you know what I mean? Well, it's kind of like, you know, gravity. You see 32 meters per second in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Are you working in a vacuum? Probably not. I'm going to stop now.
Thank you for your questions. And of course, if you have something that you would like to ask us, send us a tweet. Send us a tweet at TekThing, not ask@tekthing.com. That's our email address.
At TekThing.com.
At TekThing, at Snubs, and at Patrick Norton. A couple of weeks ago, I asked you guys for suggestions about solar power, and we got a great one from Dan, who writes, depends on what type of camping you are planning. For backpacking and hiking, have a look over at www.powerfilmsolar.com. These are good quality for an Iowan-made product. I got my panels from Renogy.com, and the rest of my parts came from eBay. I have a total of 592 watt panels with a 35 amp charge controller and a 600 watt inverter. I've had my current setup for over 6 years now, and I can tell you that when it comes to inverters, price is an indication of quality. The following would be a good place to start at Renogy.com with the link in the show notes. And that one was from Dan. And we also got one more from Tim, who wrote in, I would check these guys out over at waka-waka.com. I love that name. Great products, plus helps out others. I have a light and a power station, which my twin boys have taken to Borneo. They are waterproof and rugged, and they have survived many a camping trip. From Tim in the UK. Thank you to both of you guys. And if you want to check out those links, not only do we have them on the show notes, but I have them pulled up on my computer. Those are over at powerfilm.com. Tons and tons of products here, as well as Renogy.com. $234. Yeah, price is definitely
that's
match
pretty
to quality.
reasonable.
It is reasonable in my opinion.
A lot of the really high-profile ones that have big marketing campaigns are awful.
Yeah.
The one that shows up in Costco with the big
lot.
stainless steel power brick and the guy going, people take these to the outback of Australia. He's lying because they take them there and they fall apart. Waka-waka is really cool because they basically donate to communities.
That's cool.
Actually, if you scroll down, those are all the developing countries they've given away solar charging devices.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Go you guys, waka-waka.
Yes.
And thank you so much for your suggestions. I'm going to look into those because I'm definitely needing to get some more camping gear.
I'm thinking about making my garage solar powered.
Ooh.
With all the tools and stuff.
Cool.
Solar drill presses for the win. We got one more power cable suggestion. John writes in, I noticed the car USB charger recommended was a normal USB connections. If you have a phone that uses USB-C, there is a better option from CHOETECH. They make a dual USB car charger with Qualcomm Quick Charge 3.0 and USB-C ports. John adds that their USB-C cables have also been approved by Benson Leung. John, one, thank you. Two, that's the Qualcomm Quick Charge 3.0 USB-C ports in dual USB car charger. I will not read the entire length of that. It's $18, which is a pretty good deal. If you are not familiar with Benson, he is basically a member. He works at Google. Mm-hmm. He's part of the team that's been pushing USB Type-C. He's worked on 2 Pixel products now that use the connector, and he has done a metric ton of reviews on these.
Yes, he has.
There's even a crazy Google spreadsheet that someone put together on Reddit that lists all of the products he's reviewed.
What?
Yeah. And basically, he
I
approves
have to look
them.
at that.
It's good. There
That's
are
great.
a lot of inferior, not just USB-C, but USB-B products, or USB 2.0 products, or USB 3.0 chargers that deliver miserable power or inadequate amounts of power. And it's awesome to see him doing all these. So 1, Benson, thank you. 2, thank you to the nice Redditor who put that spreadsheet together. And 3, John, thank you again for sending in your email. We love it when you guys share tips and ideas.
We do.
Ask at TekThing.com or at TekThing, or post on Facebook.com/TekThing.
All right, I think that about wraps up everything. But remember, first off, once in a while, put down your phone, step away from the screen, and close your laptop, and do something analog like Tony's recommendation.
He says, howdy, I've been a fan for a while now, love you guys. My favorite activity outside of the office has got to be kayaking. Here is a highlight reel of last year. Thanks again, and keep up the awesome work. Tony.
Oh, I love this video.
I like how he's bombing over trees.
So cool. This is like a whole music video that he sent us. We muted it so we wouldn't get a takedown, but this is great. I love this video. We'll put this link in the show notes so you guys can check it out. But man, kayaking, what a great choice for an analog.
I grew up canoeing and kayaking. It's
so fun.
It is so fun. It's good stuff. Thank you so much for sending in your videos, sir. I'm Patty Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing. Gotta get you like on a full-on like 10-mile hike to someplace empty and beautiful and full of nature.
I agree. I would like to do that. Are there bathrooms nearby?
How do you know, if you got a shovel and you follow the rules. Or, actually, I've been camping in several places where you had to pack out your potty.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's a singular experience.
Okay.
Hot bag it and tie it up tight because there's nothing worse than exploded poo in a backpack.
Ew, gosh, that's like...
Didn't happen to me, happened to my cousin. He spent 2 days without eating on the hike back. He was...
Oh gosh, that's horrible.
That's okay. He's got a whole system now to make sure that never happens again.
That's good.
Oh my goodness, he was
You learn from your mistakes.
I understand he was very hungry. Oh my goodness.
That's hilarious.
On that random note, we want to remind, we want to just thank you. I want to say thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you to everybody who watches. We appreciate it. We'll be back here next Thursday.
New build video coming up soon.